Hi, I'm Marissa. My mom told me not to come to my sister's engagement party, said I'd ruin the vibe. Then her fiance walked in, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Hi, boss." The room froze. They had no idea I was the woman funding, the company that paid for the ring on her finger. And that moment? It wasn't about revenge. It was about something else. Something I'd never been given by them. Not once. Respect. Not asked for. Just quietly, finally, earned. But that's not where the story begins. It started 3 days earlier, in my kitchen in Austin. I was sitting by the window, the one that gets just the right kind of morning light, sipping espresso from this handmade ceramic mug I picked up in New Orleans. I'd just started sorting through investor updates, a few hiring approvals, some R&D trial notes, typical start-of-week inbox chaos. But my mind wasn't in it. Clarissa's engagement party was coming up. Big house, full catering, people in blazers and pastel dresses who shake hands like they're giving job interviews. The kind of crowd that compliments the wine but forgets your name the second you walk away. Still, I figured I'd go. I mean, it's what you do, right? Show up, be supportive, even when you feel like a piece of furniture in your own family. I've done it for years, stood in the background, smiled politely through silences that said everything. So I texted my mom, "Hey, thinking of coming in early to help set up for the party. Let me know if you need anything." And then I went back to reviewing a financial audit for one of our subsidiaries like nothing had happened. An hour passed, then 2. At 11:13 a.m., her reply came in, just one line. "Sweetheart, it's best. If you don't come, it might be awkward." I stared at it, like maybe I'd read it wrong. I hadn't. A minute later, another text. "Clarissa's fiance is very successful. Let's keep the event drama-free. No warmth, no explanation, just words that hit like cold water." I blinked, sat there, still, like my body hadn't gotten the message that something had shifted. Not just for this party, for everything. They didn't want me there. No, she didn't want me there. I locked my phone and leaned back, still holding my coffee like it might help me feel something other than this growing numbness. "Very successful," she said. Like I wasn't. Like my work meant nothing because it didn't come with hashtags or champagne-worthy stories. I co-founded a biotech firm that just secured its 3rd federal grant. We're building diagnostic tools that could literally save lives. But she couldn't mention that over appetizers, could she? Clarissa was easy to explain. Lifestyle branding, soft edges, bright smiles. I was complicated. Too many syllables, not enough sparkle. I stood up and walked over to the bookshelf. Pulled out an old photo album, one I hadn't touched in years. Dust coated my fingertips as I flipped through the pages. Every holiday, every birthday. Clarissa front and center, someone's arm over her shoulder. Me, blurred, cropped, half-turned. Always just outside the frame. I stopped on a Christmas photo from 5 years ago. Clarissa was wearing red velvet. Mom had said, "You look like a movie star." When I walked in, after a delayed flight and still in my lab coat, she muttered, "At least take it off before dinner." I closed the album slowly, walked back to the kitchen, picked up my phone and looked at the message again. Let's keep the event drama-free. I deleted the calendar invite, canceled the flight notification, then, without even thinking, I opened my laptop. Not to work, just to stare at the background image. Me and my team standing in front of our office, holding last year's Innovation Award. 6 of us, beaming. Tired but proud. I didn't click any tabs. I didn't need to. Because for the first time, I felt it. Really felt it. I wasn't going to beg for a seat at their table anymore. I was already building my own. I sat there for a long time after closing my laptop. Not working, not moving, just letting the silence settle. The kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. The kind that feels like being erased. Eventually, I walked back over to the bookshelf and pulled out the album again. The spine cracked like it hadn't been opened in a decade. Maybe it hadn't. Page after page, the pattern hit me harder than I expected. There was Clarissa every single time, centered, smiling, someone's hand on her shoulder. Always camera ready, always framed like she belonged. Me? I was the blur in the corner. The face half turned, cropped out like I didn't fit. There was a photo from 4th of July. Clarissa in a white sundress, sparklers in hand, surrounded by cousins. I remembered that night. I'd just flown in from a summer internship at the CDC. Still had my badge in my pocket. No one asked about it. No one even noticed I was late because they hadn't saved me a plate. New Year's Eve. Clarissa in gold sequins, being kissed on the cheek by an ex she posted about for months. Me behind a houseplant, literally. Not even kidding. Her engagement announcement. The one they used on the invite. Beautiful lighting. Her arms around Elliot. My name wasn't even on the guest list yet, and it wasn't just the photos. It was every memory stitched into the silence. I remembered calling home during college, right after I'd pulled 3 all-nighters prepping for a research presentation. I needed a voice that reminded me I was doing okay. Mom picked up. She didn't ask how I was. She said, "Clarissa's falling apart over this breakup. Can you call her? You're stronger." Stronger. That was always the word they used. Not thoughtful. Not responsible. Not even smart. Just strong. Like that made it okay to never ask if I was hurting. That became the script. Every time they overlooked me, every time they brushed past something important to me, that word was the shield they used. You're strong, Marissa. As if strength is an excuse to never offer softness. As if being dependable means you don't need love. I flipped another page. Found a photo from my high school graduation. Clarissa had a flower crown. I had a research award in my hand no one asked about. I remembered something even earlier, something sharper. The summer I got into Stanford's pre-med summer institute, it was the proudest moment of my life. I had applied in secret. I wanted to surprise them with something that felt like a real milestone. Full scholarship. Housing. Everything. 2 days after the letter came, Mom called me into the kitchen. Didn't make eye contact. Just wiped down the counter like it was routine. "Honey," she said, "Clarissa didn't get into that PR program in New York. She's devastated. We're trying to keep her from spiraling." I already knew what was coming. She said, "If you could maybe defer for a year, take community college classes locally, just until she feels more secure." I said yes before she finished. Not because I wanted to, because I thought that's what good daughters did. That deferment? It turned into a detour. I lost my spot. Ended up rerouting everything. Years of planning, reshuffled like a deck of cards. I wasn't allowed to hold. No one ever asked if I regretted it. No one ever thanked me. Clarissa stayed local, went to a state school instead, eventually started her lifestyle blog anyway. And I made it through med school later. On my own, with debt that still wakes me up some nights. But even now, with everything I've built, they still talk about me like I almost made it. Not like I did, just almost. The thing about being invisible in your own family is that you start to believe you're meant to be. That maybe blending into the background is your role. That if you stay useful, stay quiet, they'll eventually notice. Maybe even appreciate you. But they don't. Not really. They just keep placing the spotlight where it's easiest. And I keep standing in the wings, wondering what more I have to do to matter. I closed the album slowly, as if it might shatter if I moved too fast. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel sad. I just felt tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, the kind that comes from years of holding in questions no one wants to answer. I carried the album back to the shelf, placed it gently where it had been, and stood there for a moment with my hand resting on the spine. I wasn't sure if I'd ever open it again. Maybe some stories are better left out of frame. I went back to the kitchen and sat down at the table, same spot where I'd read that text from Mom. The espresso had gone cold, but I took a sip anyway. Bitter, fitting. I picked up my phone again. Not to message anyone, just habit. I opened my banking app, something I checked way too often, a reflex from those early startup days when every dollar counted. My thumb hovered over the recurring payments tab, then tapped. There they were, all of them. Line after line of quiet contributions. Water bill. $142, $12 electric, $195.40 internet and cable. $243.80 Clarissa's car repair last spring, $648, $20. Emergency dental for dad, $881, $60. Grocery reimbursements, random Venmo requests. Little things, big things. All of it added up, $15,284.38. I just sat there staring at that number. My chest didn't tighten. I didn't feel heat rising in my neck, just stillness. A very clear kind of stillness. Because the truth hit me, not like a punch, but like a door quietly closing. They never thanked me. Not once. Not even a lazy, got it, or appreciate you. Just silence. Sometimes, a double heart emoji from Clarissa. Nothing from Mom. And Dad? Only called when something broke. No one checked in during flu season. No one remembered that I spent 2 years living alone when my roommate moved out mid-pandemic. They never asked how my clinical trials were going, or if I was sleeping, or if I was even okay. I was the utility they forgot existed until something failed to turn on. And I let it happen. I let it happen because I thought it made me good. Good daughters don't need applause. They just do what needs doing, right? But this wasn't duty. This was invisibility in direct deposit form. I opened my laptop, same one I used to fund these bills. I didn't hesitate. Electric, cancel autopay. Done. Internet. Remove payment method. Done. Property taxes on the house? Delete card. Confirm. Each cancellation felt like peeling something off my skin. Not angry, not impulsive, just necessary. One by one, the systems they relied on disappeared, not out of vengeance. I wasn't trying to teach a lesson. I was just done. Done with being a convenience. Done with being the fallback. The browser screen eventually faded to black, like even it knew something had ended. I looked around the apartment, at the things I'd built with my own money. The framed award from the NIH, the books I'd read on ethics, design, medicine, the photo of my team in front of our office, all of us sweaty and smiling after an 18-hour shift getting ready for FDA inspection. None of that ever made it into the group chats, into the family updates, into the narrative of who I was. They didn't see me, they saw a credit line. And maybe that hurt more than the rejection, because they didn't just leave me out. They used me and still made me feel like I didn't count. That's when it really settled in. I didn't need to earn a place at their table. I needed to walk away from it entirely. I closed the laptop, pushed it slightly to the side, and sat back. No music, no distractions. Just me and a kind of quiet I hadn't felt in years. The kind that said, this is what peace sounds like. Not a slam. Not a scream. Just absence. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. The morning of the engagement party, I didn't set an alarm. I let the sun wake me, soft, slanted light cutting through my blinds. I made coffee, black, no sugar, no rush, around. 10, my phone buzzed, incoming video call, Evelyn. She never called me on video. Ever. I hesitated, just for a second. Then I picked up. Her face appeared, dimly lit and flustered. Her voice was a whisper. Marissa, she said, glancing off screen. I didn't know who else to call. Are you okay? I asked. Before she could answer, the camera shifted, and I saw it. Chaos. The house, Clarissa's party, was packed, but everything felt off. Lights were flickering. Guests were standing around in awkward little clumps, fanning themselves with napkins. I could hear Clarissa's voice rising in the background. Mom, the caterer just left. They said the fridge wasn't cold enough for the shrimp. Then Mom's voice, sharp. Why is nothing working? Where's the Wi-Fi? Evelyn's camera moved again, showing me the living room from a low angle, like she was trying not to be seen. Guests were checking their phones, confused. The music had stopped. Someone mentioned calling the electric company but couldn't get through. Everything they'd planned, the perfect evening, the Instagram stories, The catered elegance was unraveling. "They don't know you're here," Evelyn whispered. "They don't know you're hearing any of this." "Good," I said quietly. Then the front door opened. The noise dipped, like someone had pressed pause. Elliot stepped in, Clarissa's fiancé. Calm, collected, blazer buttoned, holding a gift bag. He took one look around the room, at the dim lights, the fidgeting guests, Clarissa pacing, and frowned. Clarissa rushed up to him, voice thin with panic. "Nothing's working, Jules. The power's out, the fridge shut down, the Wi-Fi won't connect. I swear, if this party is ruined over some glitch," he nodded, trying to stay composed. "It's okay. I'll check the fuse box." He walked toward the kitchen right into Evelyn's camera view, and then he saw me. He froze, not dramatically, just for a split second. A blink. A recalibration. Then his face shifted. Recognition. Shock. Then something else. Respect. His voice dropped. "Marissa?" Evelyn stayed quiet. He looked at the screen, then back at the commotion behind him. The weight of it was catching up to him. Slowly. Deliberately. "You're on this call?" he asked. I didn't answer. He blinked, tilted his head slightly. "You're the co-founder of Beryllium?" Silence. I watched it all. Clarissa turning around to look, her face tight with confusion. Then realization. Her eyes narrowed like she couldn't process what she was seeing. Elliot's voice dropped again, quieter this time. "You're my new boss." And the room went still. No one said anything. Not Mom, not Clarissa, not the guests, not even Evelyn. Just this collective, stunned, breathless moment of realization. I looked directly at Elliot through the screen. "I hope your onboarding goes smoothly," I said calmly. "Welcome to the team." And then I ended the call. No drama, no parting shot, no raised voice, just a clean exit, like closing a book you've already finished reading. The knock came 2 evenings later. Not the soft, kind neighbors use when they're returning a package. This one had rhythm, purpose, like whoever was on the other side was bracing themselves for a negotiation. I opened the door and there they were, my parents, Martin and Sharon, standing stiff side by side like they hadn't just gone radio silent after watching their world crack open on a video call. Dad wore that half smile he always pulled out when asking for a favor. Mom clutched a canvas tote like it was some kind of offering. Her lipstick was smudged at the corner, eyes too wide, trying too hard to look composed. "Can we come in for a moment?" Dad asked. I didn't answer, just stepped aside and let them walk past me like they were entering a museum exhibit. They sat at the kitchen table. Didn't take off their coats. I poured 2 glasses of water, placed them in front of them without a word. Dad cleared his throat. "Look, we're not here to fight. It's just things have been a little chaotic since the party." Mom jumped in. "Clarissa's a mess. She hasn't been eating. Elliot hasn't returned her calls. You know how sensitive she is." I said nothing, just waited. There it was. Dad leaned in slightly, voice softer now, like he was easing into a sales pitch. "We were wondering if you could help out a bit. Just until things stabilize. Nothing extravagant, maybe $2,000 a month. Keep things running smooth." That was it. No apology. No mention of the years I paid their bills without a single thank you. Just straight to business. As if Saturday had been a minor glitch and not the mask-slipping moment they'd never recover from. I stood, walked over to the bookshelf and pulled out a folder. From inside, I slid a single page across the table. Dad frowned, picked it up. "What's this?" "A contract," I said. "If I'm expected to contribute $2,000 a month, then Clarissa contributes $1. And when the time comes, all assets, including the house, are legally willed to me. Full transparency, legal clarity." Mom's mouth opened, stunned. Dad's face went dark. "You're kidding." His voice tightened. "We raised you for 30 years and now you want a contract?" "No," I said. "I want clarity. I want fairness. I want something I've never gotten from this family. Respect." He slammed his hand on the table, making the glasses rattle. Unbelievable. We ask for a little help and get legal paperwork like we're strangers. I looked him straight in the eyes. Strangers don't forget your birthday, I said quietly. Strangers don't call you an embarrassment for working in a field they don't understand. Mom reached out, her tone softer now. We didn't come here to argue. But Clarissa, she's not as strong as you, Marissa. You've always been stronger. That word again, I laughed. Not out of humor. Just that tired kind of disbelief that comes when someone uses your wounds as proof of your worth. Right. I'm strong. That's why you called me when the pipes burst, but never when I published research in Nature. That's why you leaned on me when Clarissa lost her job, but never asked how I was sleeping while running clinical trials and hospital budgets. Mom looked down. Dad didn't. His jaw tightened. You're turning your back on your family, he said. I shook my head slowly. No. You turned your back when you told me not to come home. I'm just finally listening. Silence stretched out between us, heavy and long. Then I saw it. A flicker of something in Dad's eyes. Offense, pride, maybe shame. But he stood abruptly. Come on, Sharon, we're wasting our time. He crumpled the contract in one hand like it insulted him. Mom hesitated, then followed. But before stepping out, she looked at me. Eyes misty, not sorry. We didn't raise you to be this cold. I held the door open. You didn't raise me, I said, voice calm and certain. You raised Clarissa, I raised myself. And I closed the door behind them. 3 days passed. No calls, no texts, not from my parents, not from Clarissa. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was quiet, clean, like someone had finally shut off the background noise. Then came the voicemail. Clarissa. Just seeing her name on my screen made my stomach tighten, not from fear, just from habit. I tapped play and held the phone a few inches away, like it might bite. Do you have any idea what you've done, Marissa? Her voice was already shaking, not with sadness, with rage. Elliot won't talk to me. Mom's barely said a word since the party. You humiliated all of us. And now I hear you're demanding property? She paused. Her tone shifted, sharpened. You manipulated him, didn't you? You always act like the victim, but you're the most controlling one of all. I ended the message before she could finish. I didn't need to hear the rest. Later that night, I opened Instagram. I wasn't looking for anything, just muscle memory. And there it was. Clarissa's story, black screen, white text. Some people pretend to be empowered, but they just manipulate behind a lab coat. Beware the quiet ones. No names. But close enough that everyone who knew us would get the hint. Within hours, my DMs started pinging. Hey, is everything okay between you? And Clarissa? I saw something weird on her story. Should I be worried? I didn't reply to any of them. I just let the messages sit there, like unanswered questions, like junk mail. The next day, a padded envelope arrived. Return address, small law office in Houston. I opened it at my desk, peeled back the seal carefully. Inside, a mediation request. Formal claim from my parents, Martin and Sharon, seeking $12,000 for unfulfilled familial support agreements from the past 6 months. I read it twice, not because I couldn't believe it, because I could. They were claiming I owed them for what? Back payments I never agreed to? Support I had quietly provided for years without a single thank you? They knew I had canceled the auto payments. They knew I'd stopped helping. But this was how they chose to respond. Not with a phone call, not with an apology, with paperwork. They wanted to turn silence into strategy, turn guilt into currency. Stared at the letter, then pulled out my phone. Took a photo of the document and forwarded it to my lawyer with one sentence. Document everything. No response for now, and that was it. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even roll my eyes. I just sat back in my chair and let the absurdity settle. Let them file, let them try. I was done explaining myself to people who treated my silence like consent and my boundaries like betrayal. They wanted to play chess. Was no longer on the board. A week passed, no calls, no letters, no unexpected knocks. Then one morning, just after I finished updating a grant proposal, I saw the email. Subject: Apology and goodbye. It was from Elliot. I paused before opening it. Not because I was nervous, just because I wanted to absorb it slowly. I've been thinking about everything, he wrote. About Clarissa, about the engagement, about you, and I'm ashamed. Not because of anything you did, but because I let someone else define who you were. He wrote that he saw my name on the org chart every day and never made the connection, that he should have looked deeper. I'm ending things with Clarissa. Not out of anger, out of clarity. She's not who I thought she was. I'm sorry, and I respect you more than you know. I sat still after reading it. Let the words settle like dust, finding a place to land. I didn't feel triumphant. There was no victory rush. Just calm. By evening, Clarissa had found her voice again. She texted, then texted again, and again. You're probably enjoying this, but can you please talk to Elliot? He's confused. You're his boss. If you say something, he'll listen. Then, I know you're still mad, but this isn't fair. You win, okay? Just fix this. I stared at the messages. Nothing stirred in me. No pity, no desire to reply, just stillness. Finally, I typed one sentence. Elliot left because of who you are, not because of anything I said. Then I blocked her. Text, email, everything. Even LinkedIn. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it for peace. The next morning, I stepped into the office with a kind of energy I hadn't felt in years. Grounded, focused, free. Julian passed me in the hallway, eyes clear, steps steady. We exchanged a nod. That was enough. That evening, I drove to San Antonio, not to the house I grew up in. I had no reason to see that porch again. Instead, I walked past the old public library, past the bakery that used to smell like cinnamon and disappointment. Those streets didn't hold me anymore. They were just streets. I met Evelyn at a quiet cafe near the Riverwalk. She hugged me tight, then leaned back and studied my face. You look lighter, she said. I smiled. I think I left a few ghosts behind. We sat in silence for a while, the kind of silence that doesn't need to be filled. Then she leaned in again. You didn't win, Marissa. You healed. That's harder. I looked out the window at the kids feeding ducks, the boats drifting by. Sometimes healing means choosing yourself, I said, even if it means choosing solitude. Evelyn nodded, eyes proud and a little sad. It's not cold to want peace. It's wise. Back in Austin that night, I lit a candle and opened a book I'd been meaning to read for months. The rain tapped gently against the windows. No texts, no drama, only the kind of silence that feels like protection, not punishment. Some family stories don't end with hugs. They end with boundaries. And that's okay. Have you ever had to walk away from people who were supposed to love you unconditionally? People who made you feel invisible in your own story? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone else feel a little less alone. And if this one resonated with you, if you've ever chosen peace over approval, make sure to subscribe for more. There are more stories like this. Some of them might feel a little too familiar.